And we are live. So I'm here today, and I want to have a couple of quick procedural announcements. Apologies about yesterday and what happened with Carrie. We were about 40 minutes into the Late Show stream, and then somewhere around 10:40 or 10:45, Hurricane Ida caught up with us, and so we lost power. Power was not restored for another 5 hours, so it was almost 4 in the morning by the time power came back on. Obviously, we lost the stream. I've deleted the incomplete episodes completely, and I've spoken to Rod, who was my guest at that time, and we're going to reschedule and redo Carrie again because it's definitely worth talking about. I think it's among the best of maybe the best of Stephen King's film adaptations. I also want to say that right now we are simultaneously live streaming on YouTube. We are live streaming on our Facebook page, American Werewolf in New Jersey, and we are live streaming on LinkedIn. So if you're in LinkedIn or Facebook and you're seeing this, like the video, leave a comment. Even if you think, you have a suggestion or something you think we could be doing better, feel free. So that's what it's there for. If you're here in YouTube, then obviously you can comment directly to the stream. And before we went on, we got a comment that says we're covering some wickedly cool films. And I'm definitely enjoying the movies that we're going at it with. Here today in the studio, I've got Stormcrow joining us. So welcome once again, and thanks for hanging out and covering some movies with me.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's good to have you on as always.
Yep.
This is kind of an original episode in the sense that we're covering we're covering our first nonfiction story.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a history versus Hollywood kind of take on things. We're talking about 1996's The Ghost in the Darkness, which is based on, well, before we get into that, should we just get it going?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, The Ghost in the Darkness is essentially based on the real story of two man-eating lions who killed upwards of hundreds, probably they believed hundreds of men. They don't have an official count, but the estimate several hundred men over a 9-month period during a bridge construction in Tsavo, the city or the town of Tsavo, the village of Tsavo.
Yeah, I think it's a river too.
Yeah, I believe you're correct.
Yeah.
Which is in Kenya, if I'm not mistaken. And these lions were just like no lions that anyone had ever really heard of before. They were quite adept at eluding the standard tricks, traps, and barriers that men, especially in that part of the world, had learned to use to avoid encounters with man-eating lions. And these lions just didn't seem to go for any of it. It proceeded to kill scores and scores of Black African men and Indian men who were hired by the British during the days of colonization to construct the railroads over there. And this particular man who wrote the book about it, Colonel John Patterson, wrote a book called The Maneaters of Tsavo, which documents his experience, not just dealing with those lions, but also the construction of the bridge that he was hired to build by the British, probably to connect the ivory trade and so
Yeah.
forth and so on, those sorts of things. But if you ever get a chance, it's a fascinating book and definitely worth picking up. It costs you a few pennies on Amazon. It's a nice paperback copy. It's not a particularly detailed read. It's not very dry. It's actually quite interesting. Patterson was quite a good writer, direct and to the point. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Yeah. It was right smack in the middle of the British Empire.
Yeah.
What was it, 1898, I think.
Yeah, the Victorian era.
Yeah, right in there when the British Empire was on top.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was the lions were, when we were looking it up, we were just talking about it. Each of them, they were both about 9 feet long. So that's a picture of that. There's a picture of one of them there. I mean, look at the head on that thing.
Yeah, that's a picture of one of the lions, and it's right next to Colonel Patterson. They've got it propped up, I guess, for scale.
Yeah.
You can see the size of his head. These were two rare, and I think you mentioned this, these were two rare maneless male lions.
Yeah.
But you can see the size of the lion's head is as big as Patterson's torso.
Yeah.
So just the head alone is the size of a normal man's torso. I assume Patterson to be of about average height, so on and so forth. Yeah. And these things were anywhere between, I think one was 9 foot 3 inches long, including the tail. I think another was 9 foot 8 inches long, including the tail. Somewhere in the average of 3.5 feet high.
Yeah.
They were just monsters.
Yeah. And it's interesting too that they, on the book cover and in the movie, the lions have manes. Yeah. I always thought that was an interesting thing. I guess the filmmakers might have thought, well, the average people would confuse a male lion with a female lion if it didn't have a mane. It's like, I don't think people are that stupid, but whatever.
I think that the mane makes it seem a little more terrifying.
I guess so.
More, when you see a lion, you associate it with the lion's mane. That sort of sense of dominance. It's the king of the jungle. It's not screwing around. Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, when you see those lions make the jump, they're actually quite frightening. They're
and
not.
This is a real life horror story, really.
Yeah, I mean, here's a picture of the two of them just side to side from the movie. When you first find out that there's not one lion, there's two.
Yeah.
Now, Colonel Patterson in the movie is played by the always fun Val Kilmer.
Yeah, there he is.
Now, believe it or not, this movie is 25 years old.
Whew.
So it's been 25 years. Val Kilmer, Michael Douglas, numerous other actors and performers. Tom Wilkinson is in this.
Yeah.
The man who plays, King T'Chaka from
John Connie.
Yeah,
and he's T'Chaka in Black Panther, and don't forget
Samuel here.
Don't forget King Theoden.
I didn't add King Theoden into this. He has a minor part.
Bernard Hill. He's great though.
Little did he know that 5 years from now he would be playing, one of the largest characters in all of literary fiction.
Yeah. And I got to say, Val Kilmer was on top right now. This was like after, I think we were saying, right after he had done Heat and Batman. He was right. He was the hot ticket then.
Yeah.
And it's a shame when you see him now. I mean, there was that documentary about him.
I didn't watch it. I thought I would be very sad.
Yeah.
To see him deteriorated like that.
Yeah, I might check it out, but yeah, he can't talk anymore.
He has throat cancer, right? Or he had throat cancer.
He had it. Yeah, I think he's in the clear, but
he lost his voice box and
he can't talk. I think he uses something to talk, like a mechanical device. It's a shame, man, because he was it for a long time.
He's a good actor. He's a good actor. I've always enjoyed his movies.
Yeah, he was the youngest graduate of Juilliard. I think he still holds the honor of being the youngest graduate of Juilliard. He was like, I forget how young he actually was, but yeah, he got started pretty early in his acting career. I mean, he goes all the way back to the early 80s.
Okay. Yeah,
If you
yeah, yeah. Real
his
genius.
Yeah, Real Genius. I think that was probably his first one. It was either that or Top Secret. It was one of those. It was his
Top
first one.
Gun.
What's that?
Top Gun.
Top Gun was after that.
Was it after that?
Yeah, Top Gun was when he was like, yeah, he was pretty big
He
at
wasn't
that
quite.
point.
He wasn't quite established. I didn't really know him from anywhere when I saw him in the theaters.
Oh,
I
okay.
saw Top Gun in the theater.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
I was like, "Who's the Iceman?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who is that guy?
Yeah.
Okay, he's the one who's always getting in Tom Cruise's face. So you
Yeah.
don't like him. Get out of Tom Cruise's face, man. Now,
Go ahead.
I
No,
was going to say this movie is directed by Stephen Hopkins. Now, Stephen Hopkins doesn't have an enormous fan base in terms of, for me personally, with his credits. He's got Nightmare on Elm Street 5, which, I'm sure he's still trying to live down to this day. Predator 2, that's not doing him any favors.
No.
He's got a fantastic movie, though, that I love called Judgment Night.
Oh, okay.
I love Judgment Night. That's an old classic with Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding, Dennis Leary, and it's the story of these 5 friends, or 4 or 5. Jeremy Piven is in it. It's like 4 friends that are in their late 20s, early 30s, and they decide to go out for a night on the town. And what ends up happening? They witness a murder. And they're on the run from these people that are trying to kill them, and the leader of the gang is Dennis Miller, who's not Dennis Miller, Dennis Leary. Yeah, not Dennis Miller. Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary, who in his 90s was in his heyday.
Yeah, he was.
And he plays a very frightening sort of hood. This guy who you could tell he only kind of operates at night.
Okay.
So he directed that, and he directed another one that I liked, Lost in Space, the one with William Hurt, Mimi Rogers, I think, Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman is in that. So he's got a few acting credits, but out of all of those, this is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, now, the story is that, he's hired over in Europe to build this bridge by Tom Wilkinson, who is just the biggest asshole boss.
You got
gets over.
No, you got the Val Kilmer picture. I didn't know if you were showing Tom Wilkinson or what.
No, I didn't put up Tom Wilkinson.
Okay, no problem.
He has a minor sort of role. And to be honest, now, here's the thing that I'm doing here. I'll reference some of these things, but I'll also compare them to what's happened in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book, Wilkinson's character doesn't come up at all.
Oh no,
there's no monstrous boss.
No,
if there is, Patterson didn't put him in the book.
But see, if you want a monstrous boss, you call Tom Wilkinson.
Yeah,
that guy's awesome. He always plays those kind of characters. And if you don't know who I'm talking to, or who I'm talking about, people out there, he was Carmine Falcone in Batman Begins.
Yeah,
he was Cornwallis in The Patriot. Yeah. He's just a great. He always plays just a
good character actor. Yeah,
he's awesome. Actor. Yeah.
Now you're here in Africa in the late 19th century.
Yeah.
You've got Christian missionaries over there. You've got the ivory trade going on over there, which is one of the reasons that there's an argument as to why this bridge needs to be built at all. It's like one of the microscopic threads, but it is in there.
Yeah.
And you've got the British, of course, colonizing Africa.
Yeah.
With the help of other Africans and, the Indians that are, sort of subjugated as well and taking jobs over there.
And you've got
Patterson doesn't really Patterson really doesn't delve into that very much. He's very much in the book. He's very much a man about business.
Okay.
He's not a man of politics. He's an engineer and he's there to build a bridge.
Yeah.
He's not here to, and in fact, he actually speaks very highly of the people that are working so hard to build this bridge, especially under these would turn into horrific conditions.
Yeah.
Now it kicks off where I'm trying to think. In the book, it kicks off where he hears the story of a man-eater killing someone.
Oh, okay.
But he only hears about it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't. Initially, he doesn't believe that has actually happened. Because unlike the movie, and we were talking about this before we went on, if Tsavo is here, these are like upwards of 3,000 men that are working every day to build this bridge and this railroad.
Yeah.
On either side, the camp could extend for 8 miles. Mm-hmm. So Patterson says, point blank, there were roving gangs among all these people.
Wow.
And the natural assumption was that this man who had been killed was known to be, the first man that he heard of that had been killed was known to be a man who saved all of his money. It was an Indian man.
Oh.
And he assumed that someone had just murdered him and stolen all of his money. But what happens is, and this is where I overlap into the movie, we're introduced to a character here named Mahina, who's the foreman, who played Shaka Zulu.
Yes, the late great Henry Sele, who was yes, he played Shaka Zulu. Yes.
So now in the movie, he's just considered a mighty man. He's tall and he's powerfully built, and he's considered a man of some influence among all of the the people that are working there, all the men. Mm-hmm. And so it starts off with him getting killed.
Oh, yeah.
And the movie kicks off with him getting killed.
Yeah.
And so immediately, this sense of despair sets in because they think, well, if this man who was probably the strongest among them, gets taken out first.
Yeah.
What chance do any of these other people have?
Yeah. And he's the foreman. And didn't he say like he killed like a lion with his bare hands or something like that?
Yeah, now
he's a badass.
Yeah, he's portrayed that way in the movie. Now, what happened in the book was that the Mahina, there wasn't a Mahina, but there was a man you could tell who was the foreman and a powerfully built. But he was an Indian. He was the inspiration for Mahina. He was a powerfully built Indian man. He was a Sikh. So the Sikh are the warrior castes in India, and this was a very powerful man of renown amongst all the people. And apparently what had happened, he was laying in the tent with his head sticking out towards the flap of the tent.
Gosh.
And apparently everyone saw this happen. Apparently a lion just out of nowhere stuck his head under the flap and grabbed him by the throat and just pulled him.
Oh my gosh.
So all these people saw this happen. Like, you just went camping a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So imagine, you're just laying in the tent and all of a sudden, you see the size of that lion's head.
Yeah.
And something that big just pops up under the tent just out of complete quiet and grabs the biggest man that there is by the throat and just starts running away with him.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And apparently this man put up quite a fight, but
Well, see, in the movie, they got him by his foot. The lion got him by his foot and just dragged him and dragged him and dragged him and dragged him out.
Half to death and then pounced on him.
Yeah. I mean, because there was like nothing left almost when they found him. Yeah.
And throughout the story, there's just this ongoing thing where these lions are just, they're pieces left of these men. There might be a head, there might be an arm, because they literally were feasting on them.
Yeah.
In a very sort of brutal way. It's a tough thing. So the real inspiration for Mahina was a man who died, and I think Patterson actually says he dies quite hard. Is the way he phrases it. It wasn't a fun way to go.
Now, I was going to bring this up, but did Patterson mention in the book as to why, like his speculation as to why the lions attacked these guys? Like the reasoning behind it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, because...
to be honest, I got through I only read up till, about page 54, which is the death of the two lions.
Yeah.
But I'm looking here now, and I see that there's actually a chapter about 4 chapters up 4 or 5 chapters up where they find the man-eater's den. So I haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so I actually
That's
have,
cool.
maybe after we get out of the show tonight, I'll
Yeah.
flatten
Because I
myself
remember
out and get to some of that.
I remember we were talking after we had watched the movie, and they were saying that there were a couple possible reasons for the lions attacking the camp in the first place. They were saying that they were basically what they, I think, concluded is that these lions were essentially scavengers, and that because the workers and stuff, they would find the bodies in the river and would just eat them. The remains of the workers, and then
who died of other causes.
Yeah, dysentery or whatever, and were just tossed in the river. And then the Hindus would burn the bodies.
Yeah, they
would cremate the bodies, and they would come in and eat the remains. So they thought maybe these lions didn't have food. They were, for some reason, their natural source of food was depleted. So they started scavenging these human corpses, and from there got the taste of it. And then there's the one, I think they examined the one lion's skull in the last 5 or 6 years, and they saw that it had a tooth, something wrong with its tooth, and it had like
impacted,
impacted tooth. And it just drove it to, it couldn't eat certain things because of the impacted tooth, and eating man flesh, I guess, helped its tooth or something like that. It was because they were wondering, were they rabid? Did they have a disease? Did they have, some kind of, were they feral or something like that,
Well, let's hold on. Let me look at the book real quick. It says the first appearance of the man-eaters, and I'm just going to read a couple of quick excerpts. The methods then became so uncanny, and the man-stalking so well-timed and so certain of success, that the workmen firmly believed that they were not real animals at all, but devils in lion shape. So you're also combating enormous amounts of superstition.
Well, yeah.
And the inspiration for the Mahina character was a man called Ungan Singh.
Okay.
The Jemdar shared his tent with a half a dozen other workmen, and one of his bedfellows had actually witnessed the occurrence. He graphically described how, at about midnight, the lion suddenly put its head in at the open tent door and seized Ungan Singh, who happened to be nearest the opening, by the throat. The unfortunate fellow cried out, "Choro, let go," and threw his arms up around the lion's neck. The next moment he was gone, and his panic-stricken companions lay helpless, forced to listen to the terrible struggle which took place outside. Poor Ungan Singh must have died hard, but what chance had he? As the coolie gravely remarked, was he not fighting with a lion? Gee. So, I mean, to have to hear another person be eaten.
Yeah.
That must just be like the most horrible thing. Like, that's not something that we think of.
No.
But, you might see some, a car crash, or, you might see something in war.
Yeah.
But to actually be eaten by a lion.
And you're so terror stricken that you can't do anything. I mean, there were probably enough guys in that tent that could have jumped that lion and gotten the guy away, but they were so scared of it. Yeah. They were just paralyzed, Yeah.
And another thing that happened was, it says, with its 2,000 or 3,000 men scattered over a wide area remained at Tsavo, the coolies appeared not to take much notice of the dreadful deaths of their comrades. So at first it was so spread out.
Yeah.
That no one was really paying much attention. Like if one person out of 3, even if 5 people out of 3,000 get killed, spread out over, 8 miles in one direction and 8 miles in another direction.
One end
didn't know what the other was doing. It may take a little while before the fire,
before the news gets out. Hey guys, there's a lion down here eating it. Yeah. But I think I remember at first it was one lion, or they would go, one would go, but then they both started attacking. They both got real brave and started attacking at the same time.
So it says, at this time, the various camps for the workmen were very scattered, so that the lions had a range of some 8 miles on either side of Tsavo to work upon. That's crazy. Their tactics seemed to be to break into a different camp each night, it was most difficult to forestall them. So it's too much ground to cover.
Yeah.
It's way too much ground to cover. You have no electricity.
No.
So you're limited in how far you're probably willing to explore at night.
Yeah,
You pick a place and you hope, you almost have to hope that the lion passes in front of you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I was saying that earlier. I can't even imagine the terror these guys must have been going through every day and night, building this bridge and wondering if they were going to get attacked next,
Yeah.
And and you were saying they were just by torchlight in the dark. I certainly wouldn't want to be building a bridge by torchlight.
I mean, they weren't they were doing the building during the day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But what would happen is at night, if you heard the lion close by,
yeah,
you didn't have enough illumination to risk
wanting
to go out and help who you heard screaming because you couldn't see. I mean, how far does a torch, like a flame torch, actually carry?
Mm-hmm.
Not far at all.
No,
these were just horrendous conditions. Nothing's working in favor of these men, and these men are just dying.
Well, and that's why in the movie, they were, and in the movie, they addressed a lot of the superstition with that these things were the devil or were sent to, that the white man brought them and that kind of stuff. There was a lot of that because the one character, Abdullah, remember, he was basically the guy who was accusing Val Kilmer. He was accusing Patterson of bringing these things and causing all this. There was all that. Yeah, I mean, and it almost seems like they were supernatural with what they were doing, their behavior and stuff like that, because lions don't act like that. So
it's a terrible thing was to feel so helpless. It was useless to attempt to go out, as of course the poor fellow was dead, and in addition, it was so pitch dark as to make it impossible to see anything.
From
this time, matters gradually became worse and worse. Hitherto, as a rule, only one of the man-eaters had made the attack and had done the foraging while the other waited outside in the bush. But now they began to change their tactics, entering the bomas together and each seizing a victim.
That's crazy.
And there's a story here of a man, Inspector Mr. Dalgairns, fired over 50 shots. And the lions just, no fear. 50 shots and just nothing. Nothing. It's crazy. Now, with the story of Abdullah, did I bring? Yeah, here's Abdullah here. Now, Abdullah is one of the Indian men who's kind of the leader of the Indian workers. And all the coolies. And, he's kind of a malcontent in the movie. He's kind of a malcontent. He's always complaining. It's not like there isn't reason for fear, but he does nothing to help.
No, he doesn't.
Whatever he does, whatever's happening, he's trying to stir it up worse.
And he just blames Patterson.
He blames Patterson for everything. He makes that comment, "You're white, you can do anything." So okay. And then eventually he tries almost to lead an insurrection. Against Patterson. Because they believe that he has brought the devil with him, into the town. But in the true story, they did sort of rally against him on two separate occasions. And were going to murder him. They were going to murder Pat, and he had no one. Like in the movie, Michael Douglas comes to his rescue as this fictitious sort of character, Remington.
He's like a master hunter, world-class hunter.
But in real life, there was no Remington that came to his aid. And at one point, he actually had to deal with one of the insurrections himself, because what had happened, it wasn't just the lions. It was that he was like a meticulously honest man. Patterson. And so what would happen is he would hire, at one point, he was asking for anyone in the camp who was a mason, so who could work with stone and do that sort of thing, to come forward. And if that was the case, he would pay them like 4 times as much money to do Masonic work. So, of course, all these Indian men came forward saying, I'm a Mason. Okay, well, then, get to work. No problem. And it turns out that like 7 out of 10 of them didn't know a damn thing. They just lied because they wanted to get the extra money. So Patterson set up a system without humiliating anybody by saying, okay, I'm only going to pay you for the work that you produce.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of finds the way to undercut the people that are trying to undercut him.
Yeah.
They wanted to kill him for it.
Jeez.
He wasn't allowing the scam to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So he was warned on several occasions that these people were coming to kill, or that he was going to be asked to come visit this one inspection site. And he actually went out there and confronted these guys head on. And he managed to redirect it.
Yeah.
But he knew it was coming.
Oh, wow.
And then there was another occasion where the same man who led the insurrection the first time tried to do it again, and then he had to have the authorities come and arrest these guys, and they ended up going away to like a penal colony, and they never had any trouble again out of them.
Yeah.
So these were hard times.
They were, yeah.
These were hard times. These were hard men.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of poverty and disease, and no one's living very well, and you've got these damn lions that are out there trying to kill you.
Yeah. And we were saying this too, is that this is a different situation from, like, say, Jaws. Jaws, you could just run up on the beach and be safe. Okay.
Yeah.
These things, there's nowhere for you to go. Yeah. I mean, even in the 8 miles of camp, these things will get you. I mean, and that's it. There's no possible way you're getting out of this. I mean, unless you have a guy like Patterson, or in the case of the movie Remington, to help you. And we were just talking about this too before we went on, is that I remember you were saying that these lions, no matter what kind of fortification they put up, these lions found a way around.
Yeah.
Because, as cat owners, cats are patient. Cats are determined to go after, to get what they want, and they will figure out a way to do it, a way to get around that obstacle, no matter how long it takes. I mean, I felt like in the movie, there were no like defenses around the camp or anything. They kind of just came in and attacked it and made off and killed people, and that was it. It sounds like in reality they actually tried to kind of build some defenses or something like that, or like a wall. Didn't you say like a wall or something?
They built like in the movie, they built the thorn bush.
Yeah,
the heavy thorn.
Oh bush. Yeah. The Bowman. Yeah.
But the lions would leap over.
Yeah.
You couldn't, because as the height of a man.
Mm-hmm.
As a 6 foot man, let's say, probably back then in the late 19th century, 6 foot was a very tall man.
Yeah.
They didn't take into consideration that these lions were like 9 feet long.
Yeah.
So it's just, it'd be like a child trying to pull defenses against a fully grown adult.
Yeah.
Not taking into but they build it for the scale of what they think a child could be able to be confounded with, whereas, an adult could just step right over it.
Yeah. Now, was Patterson, I know in the movie he wasn't, but was he the only, I guess, European guy there?
No, he had various people, but none that were, prominent in the.
Okay.
In
the
movie characters,
in the movie, it was him and the Scottish guy and Angus, and
and the doctor.
Yeah, and the doctor. Yeah. And then that's the thing too. It's funny because in the book, Patterson is a pretty competent guy, and he's a master hunter. So it's interesting that they kind of, in the movie, upstaged him with Remington's character. Like Remington is the competent. Remington's almost like the real Patterson. He's like this master hunter. Who's been to and he knows what he's doing. And like it seemed like up to that point in the movie, Patterson knew what he was doing until
he didn't.
Yeah, until Remington came in and just kind of showed him up a little bit.
Well, the Remington character, and I think this is a great performance by Michael Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
The Remington character is a killer.
Oh, yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, that's
true. Val Kilmer as Patterson is an engineer
who
happens to hunt.
Okay,
You
I
know,
see. Yeah,
this
yeah,
man is a Civil War soldier from the, he's an American from the U.S. Civil War.
yeah.
Um, so he's been killing probably from the time that he's been a small child.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
he just
yeah,
goes around the world now killing,
yeah,
which is kind of a source of friction between him and, the doctor and several of the other people as to, who's kind of in charge here.
yeah,
And, Michael Douglas is clearly kind of the alpha,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
because,
Yeah.
he's not doing this part time.
No.
He's, when he's supposed to be, the best hunter, maybe in the world at that
Mm-hmm.
time. So,
Yeah, yeah.
now a point of humor that I thought was pretty funny was that it was Michael Douglas, because Michael Douglas, for about a 10 or 15-year stretch, was just my favorite actor.
Oh, yeah. He's
Because
good,
the
man.
recurring premise of every Michael Douglas movie is someone was fucking with Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
It was Glenn Close in
Fatal Attraction.
It was Demi Moore in Disclosure. There was that movie Basic Instinct with Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
It was The Game. Everybody was fucking with him in The Game. And now these
the
lions were fucking with him in The Ghost in the Darkness. So it was just a recurring premise of every single film that he made, which was just fantastic.
In the fantastic and underrated Falling Down, Society was fucking with him.
Yeah.
Society was messing with him there.
So yeah, I mean, it's just a fantastic cast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To put in this place.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just a horrible story.
Yeah, and I think it's
because there's so many things that they try to do to kill these lions, and it just they don't work.
Yeah, and I mean they try everything and nothing, which I think is interesting too, and kind of, I mean, they did it for, obviously, I think it's ironic in the movie that Remington is ultimately killed by the lions. Here's this killer who is ultimately killed by another this beast that he set out to kill. It's kind of, I was getting a Quint Jaws vibe there too, because you have Quint setting out to kill the shark, and then the shark kills him. It's kind of that same thing.
Well, there's an enormous man versus nature.
Oh yeah,
theme
definitely
going on in this movie. So I mean, but I think quite realistically, if man steps out of certain parameters, he's not on top of the food chain.
No, he's no.
He's really not. I mean, within certain confines, yeah. I mean, man is, especially with firearms.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get someone without a firearm, it's
and even the most experienced, hunter, if you've never hunted a lion before, I mean, what are you going to do? Because it's like, if you're used to shooting deer and like the occasional bear, over here, hunting a lion is way different. So
yeah, because you're literally hunting something that can kill you.
Exactly. Yeah, well, bears can too, but yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, yeah, and like in the movie when he's up in the tree, the lion's trying to climb up there after him, like climbing up the tree.
Yeah,
so you almost,
there was quite a bit of where the lion tried to not exactly shimmy up the tree, but tried to to get after him. There was the incident with the misfire.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly how that plays out, but it's actually, the movie is actually in many ways quite accurate. I'm not exactly sure why they've added these other characters in there, although I don't want them taken out.
Probably to pad it out, I would think, because if you just had Patterson and then some other random guys, they probably just needed to pad out the story. And
I would have been okay with it, but I think it would have needed a different director, because this was not a majestic, it's got that kind of majestic score You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
dun,
yeah,
dun, dun,
yeah,
dun, dun, dun,
yeah.
dun. And like this movie was not this story is not like this at all.
It's not.
This was a spare place where people were dying horrible. I mean,
And
they could have really made this a super. I mean, much more violent,
oh yeah,
much more dark.
but yeah,
Where literally hundreds of people. Probably could have stretched out that 9 months to make it seem much longer.
yeah. Now, and we were talking about this, and it's interesting you bring that up. They could have gone, yeah, like real hardcore with this,
Yeah,
and which they remember we saw they did like a newer version, like a modern version of this. It
Prey.
just
You
looks,
said,
yeah, it just looks awful though. It's almost like they took it to the extreme, probably. It seems like they just took the gore and all that stuff to the extreme. And believe it or not, this story has been filmed a few other times.
yeah,
At least twice in the 50s. The one was the one it was called like something the Killers of Kilimanjaro, and then there was the famous B movie Buona Devil, that were both adaptations of the Tsavo man killers and man eaters. But that's the thing. Like this movie, yeah, you could go real hardcore and just have the lions start tearing people up, and they were to an extent. But
well, it would have been one of those things because, and we talked about this when Bill talked about this when he talked about the Exorcist.
mm-hmm.
Exorcist, when he talked about the effect of sound.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because like a lot of people didn't see these people getting killed. You just heard it.
yeah,
You just heard this awful screaming and the roaring, and then the screaming would go on for a while, and then the screaming would just stop.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you could have played it.
Yeah, would it have been more? Would it have been more effective if we didn't see if they kept the lions, which they tried to? I think at first they kept the lions a little more minimal, their appearance, because like you only saw them in the grass, and stuff like that.
Or you
like
saw a shadow, a silhouette.
Yeah, very sparse appearances, and then they just started ramping it up. I mean, they were going nuts when they killed Angus. The one jumped off the roof of the train station.
That didn't happen. It wasn't on the roof or anything like that.
But I liked it though. That was one of my notes too. Is that in the movie you didn't like everybody was expendable. Like I didn't know Angus was going to get killed the first time I saw that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh crap! I didn't know that Michael Douglas was going to get killed.
Yeah, yeah.
Michael
Douglas always comes out on top in the end.
Yeah. So it was interesting to see that. Like this was a movie where any character could get it at any time, and most of them did. I mean, Angus got killed, Remington got killed, Dr. Theoden got killed.
Yeah.
The Mahina, half all the worker. I mean, it was.
Unfortunately, they left Abdullah.
Yeah, but it was. I liked it in that respect that you didn't know who was going to get it next. So it was, and I believe when Patterson finally killed the lions in reality, because in the movie they have Remington kill the first one.
Yeah.
But Patterson killed both of them in like the span of like a couple days to like a week or something, right? It was like
one occurs, I think, in early December, like the 2nd or something like that, and then the other occurs like the 29th of December. Yeah. And it's like a 3-week gap. He does get into that Macan.
Yeah.
And that bird does come. He does fall out of the Macan, like that thing is stalking him at the base of the Macan. He realizes like, holy shit, like this thing is like right underneath me,
Yeah.
And the Macan was only like 12 feet tall, I think, that he built.
Wow.
So that thing was like 9 feet.
Yeah, you have a 9-foot long lion, and you have a 12-foot long 12-foot high structure.
Much.
No, it's not much.
No, it wasn't sturdy to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, and I think when he shot the second lion, he shot that thing like 10 times or something like that.
Something along those lines.
It took a lot to drop that thing.
Yeah.
Because it was, I mean,
I'm going to see if I annotated it.
Mm.
Um, hold on. He shot it once at night, and then it
Okay.
sort of lumbered off.
Oh,
And
okay.
so they had to wait until the morning because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And it says, when the lion was found, he was too late. He started to limp back to the thicket, but by this time I had seized the carbine from Mahina. And the first shot I fired from it seemed to give him quietus, for he fell over and lay motionless. Rather foolishly, I had once scrambled down from the tree and walked up toward him. To my surprise and no little alarm, he jumped up and attempted another charge. This time, however, a martini bullet in the chest and another in the head finished him for good and all, and he dropped in his tracks not 5 yards away from me and died gamely, biting savagely at a branch which had fallen to the ground.
Wow, he was biting a branch.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. But I mean, to have that quick reaction when this thing's charging.
Oh no, he shot him a number of times.
What's that?
Before this, he says, looking cautiously through the bush, I could see the man-eater glaring out in our direction and showing his tusks in an angry snarl. I at once took careful aim and fired. Instantly, he sprang out and made a most determined charge down on us. This was on he and Mahina. I fired again and knocked him over, but in a second, he was up and once more coming for me as fast as he could in his crippled condition. A third shot had no apparent effect, so I put my hand out for the martini, hoping to stop him with it. To my dismay, it was not there. The terror of the sudden charge had proved too much for Mahina, and both he and the carbine were by this time well on their way up a tree.
Oh, jeez.
In the circumstances, there was nothing to do but follow suit, which I did without loss of time, and but for the fact that one of my shots had broken a hind leg, the brute would have certainly have had me. Even as it was, I had barely time to swing up myself out of his reach before he arrived at the foot of the tree.
Jeez.
And then he gets up in the tree, Mahina gives him the weapon. So he's probably shot him 6 or 7 times. Not to mention he had shot him the night before.
Yeah. Man.
I mean, that's as scary as what they did in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, scarier actually, because it's true.
Yeah, I know. And that's good though that they did retain some of those elements in the book in the movie, because it shows that, you know, the screenwriters, I think William Goldman was the screenwriter. He must have done some of his homework. You know, he was obviously they were familiar with the story in Hollywood if they had done 2 other movies in like the 50s.
Yeah.
So it was known, you know. But yeah, it's pretty good. And it, you know, I think the movie was marketed more as like maybe like an adventure type movie.
Yeah, it's a historical adventure.
Yeah, rather than like
I'm looking here.
A straight up historical horror story, you know.
Yeah, I'm looking here. It says William Goldman first heard about the story when traveling in Africa in 1984 and thought it would make a good script. In 89, he pitched the story to Paramount as a cross between Lawrence of Arabia and Jaws.
Oh,
and they commissioned him to write a screenplay, which he delivered in 90. My particular feeling is that they were evil, said Goldman of the Lines. I believe that for 9 months, evil popped out of the ground at Tsavo. The script fictionalizes Patterson's account, including an American big game hunter called Charles Remington.
Yeah.
The character is based on Anglo-Indian big game hunter Charles H. Riel, superintendent of the railroad police. In the original drafts, the character was called Redbeard, and Goldman says his purpose in the story was to create an imposing character who could be killed by the lions and make Patterson seem more brave. Goldman says his ideal casting would have been Burt Lancaster.
Wow, as a Remington?
Yeah. Burt Lancaster's too damn old. According to Goldman, Kevin Costner expressed interest in playing Patterson. But Paramount wanted to use Tom Cruise, who ultimately declined. Work on the film slowed until Michael Douglas moved his producing unit with partner to Paramount. Douglas read the script and loved it, calling it an incredible thriller about events that actually took place. But Val Kilmer, who had just made Batman Forever, he's still living that down, I'm sure, and was a frequent visitor to Africa, then expressed enthusiasm for the script, which enabled the project to be financed.
Okay.
The part of Remington was originally offered to Sean Connery and Anthony Hopkins, but both declined.
Could you imagine those guys?
The producers were considering asking Gerard Depardieu.
Oh, gosh.
When Douglas decided to play the role himself. Stephen Hopkins later said he was unhappy about this.
Who was unhappy about it?
Stephen Hopkins, the director.
Was unhappy about Michael Douglas playing the part?
I think about asking Depardieu.
Oh. Man, could you imagine Connery playing that?
Jeez. Well, you know something? If Connery died, yeah, I can see it. Because I'm thinking back again, two nights in a row I'm talking about De Palma. Like, I didn't think Connery was going to die in The Untouchables.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just so damn heartbreaking when he does.
I know.
It's so damn heartbreaking when Sean Connery dies in the, because that never happens.
No. Yeah, rarely does he die in a movie.
Yeah, that would be much more impactful than even Michael Douglas dying.
Yeah. I couldn't see Gerard Depardieu playing the part. I mean, who came up with that idea?
I have no idea. $75 million worldwide it made.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was a winner.
Yeah, I know it, and again, I think it was one of those movies that kind of flew under the radar because, and I think we were talking about this. That was the same year Fargo came out in '96, and Fargo was just killed it at the box office. So I think, I don't know when this one came out, but I know '96 was a big year, and Fargo was probably one of the biggest movies of that year. And
I hate that movie.
Yeah, and I think Coen Brothers have a lot better ones, but
everybody's just so damn dumb.
Yeah. But I think this movie, it's definitely underrated. I think it fell by the wayside. And I think, you could argue that at that point, Val Kilmer was just on autopilot and churning out one thing after the next. But you know what? He's a decent actor, and I thought he acted in this. It wasn't like he was just phoning it in.
Yeah. No. I mean, these were solid performances. I think people gave a shit about this movie.
Yeah.
And that's always a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Careerism, not setting in. And you always get a solid performance from Michael Douglas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's great.
Always get a solid performance from Michael Douglas. Yep. One of my favorite Michael Douglas movies is it follows along the lines of someone fucking with him, is that movie Wonder Boys.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, man, it's a comedy.
Okay.
Oh, my God, that movie is funny. It was Tobey Maguire. Robert Downey Jr.'s in it. It's a really, really good movie.
Okay.
That's a good flick.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint my favorite Michael Douglas movie. I'd probably have to say Falling Down for me, because he's great in that.
For me, it's either. Go ahead.
And that took me by surprise because I didn't know what I was expecting when I saw it. My friend was like, "Hey, let's go see this movie." I was like, "All right." So we went over. I was like, "Dude, that's a badass movie, man. It was cool."
My favorite might either be Wonder Boys or The Game.
Okay, maybe I didn't see The Game.
You didn't see The Game?
No.
Holy shit! You got to get over here and watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna watch The Game next time you come over.
All right.
Let me know when. We don't have to do any. We don't have to do any screening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull it right up off the streaming.
Okay. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's, eventually after 9 months, they do bag the lions, which, again, we've showed you photos of here.
Yeah.
That's just one of them. And now the reconstruction.
Yeah.
They're in the Field Museum in Chicago.
Yeah. Patterson, after he killed them, he had them made into rugs in his house. And they were in his house for like 25 years. And then finally his family donated them to the museum. So they used, I guess, the real skins and reconstructed them from there. And at the Field Museum, I was saying you can see their skulls too. They have the lion skulls on display.
That would be scary.
Yeah. What? Seeing the skulls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be because I bet they're just enormous.
Oh yeah, yeah. You
I
can't in
bet.
the picture. You can't tell, but yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, but I mean, you could get a real sense of,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
like, this is not related, but it is. I mean, just a sense of scale. I remember once the WWE had a museum, had a
Mm-hmm.
restaurant in Times Square, and I went there a couple of times.
Oh, jeez.
And they had the handprint of Andre the Giant
Okay.
and the Big Show,
Mm.
and I could put two of my fingers inside the Big Show's middle finger,
Wow.
and it was like this much longer.
Wow. Jeez.
So you're just like, so I can imagine what those.
Yeah, I would love. I mean, I have no desire to go to Chicago, but I would love to see the lions, and just get an up close view of how big they are. If they made them accurate, if they reconstructed them accurately of the sizes that they were, gosh, that would be cool to see. Yeah.
Well, Chicago's a great city, but not these days.
Not right now.
Not right now. So maybe some other time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's as good a place as any to bring it to a close.
Yep.
Thank you once again, Stormcrow. I just found out, I was looking real quick, the game is on Netflix.
Okay.
So if you'd like to come over,
okay,
I'll buzz you and we'll set it up.
Yeah. Sounds good.
If you see this video, please, again, whether you're watching it on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, like it. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on the other formats, leave a comment. We'll be back next week as my favorite show and yours, Something Shitty This Way Comes, makes its triumphant return on Wednesday.
Oh, nice.
I'm not going to get on to what I'm going to be talking about just yet. And then Eric from Hey Internet, Eric here and I are going to be on Thursday covering a really solid werewolf movie that very few people know about called Howl. So we'll be back. Everybody enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Stay safe and don't drink and drive. Ryan, hang out after the outro, please.
Okay.